started. My name's Dennis Smeltzer. I'm the president of TSANet. Many of you on the call that I saw registered are going to know me. I'm joined by Paul Esch, who many of you also know. Paul is our strategy guy as well as our business development guy. Also got Stephanie Benson with us, who does all of our operational coordination and membership work. So we're going to Paul and I are going to kind of tag team you through this. Stephanie will follow up then as we're going to go ahead and record this, because there may be people that want to distribute this amongst peers within your support centers, or you just want to be able to have it to go back and look at later. The purpose of this, and again, these are really all well attended. What we try to do is put these together from time to time. This one we kind of focused in on administration training because we find that the ones where we just talk to the callers about how they can use TSANet and what TSANet is, those are really well attended. But then we needed something a little bit more in depth to go into the weeds a little bit about how it's administrated from the perspective of, I need to be able to go in and work on my contact document, or how can I make this better, or how do I get people assigned in so that they have access into TSANet. So Paul and I were going through this, and we were thinking, well, we'll just do the thing that we've done before. But as we were going through it, we thought, we've got so much coming on board here toward the fall and into the winter with the next version of the member web, that we thought we'd go ahead and kind of zero in on that. I'm going to go through the standard stuff the way the web is right now. I'm going to turn it over to Paul, and he's going to go ahead and go through some of the new stuff that's coming in, and specifically kind of zero in on some of that administration piece of it, because we know that's the audience that we got here. So that's kind of the agenda for today. I do want to cover this first. It's all important, and so I want to go over kind of the basics of TSANet. We look at this from a perspective of, we've got really 3 different administration contacts that we zero in on. We've got our business managers. Those are the people that we look at a strategic level. Quite honestly, those we look at to make sure that we're getting our member dues paid on time. But we're looking at them to say, okay, strategically, how can I use TSANet? What are the different things that I can do? And we'll get into different relationships that people are doing and things like that a little bit later. But again, we look at them to kind of, maybe they're delegating this down to some program managers that might be responsible for a particular product group, or they might be responsible for a particular program that they want to utilize TSANet to make sure they've got a collaboration mechanism in place. So we will also will identify a program manager, because they may need administration contact and rights as well to be able to go in and do things that callers wouldn't necessarily be able to do. And then you've also got what we refer to, and again, I know this is depending on the company, but you've also got escalation managers, right? And we look at those people as kind of obviously at a supervisory level, but from a TSANet perspective, they may be ones that become more aware of these multi-vendor problems that have a tendency to kind of boil up to the top, right? Where they've been sitting around for a while, and it's all of a sudden, well, hey, I know I've got the ability to get a hold of this other company because we've got a relationship with them through TSANet. So we look at them from a couple of different perspectives, but from an administration perspective, to make sure that they've also got the ability to go in and be able to edit any documents or add people and do things like that. So that's kind of the administration roles and responsibilities that we cover. This we've changed a little bit, and I think it's probably no surprise to anybody on the call that GDPR has had a pretty significant effect on how you get access into databases and what can be shared and that kind of stuff. Well, we've had to make changes too. But you've obviously got your support engineers that can get in, and we want them to be able to have access into TSANet to be able to get in and see how to engage and work with another company. So through the administration interface, and I'm going to show you again where this is at the very end of this, you've got the ability to go in and create accounts. What we took out of this that you might have been familiar with in the past is this thing called group logins. And we're trying to get away from this one URL link that you would put in a name and an email address and you're automatically put into the member web that obviously had some challenges from a security perspective. So we've gone to a couple of different ways that people are going to be able to register that will be very easy for you to do, that'll be coming out. Paul's going to touch on this a little bit later on, but we've also got the ability for you to be able to go in just through the interface now, where you go into TSANet.org and you click on member login and you click on register or request account. And what it does is that will then go in, and the default will be to go to someone within your company that is aware of this program, and they can click accept or deny. When they click accept, you're automatically put into the member web. So very easy thing to do for people to get into to TSANet. And again, we would like, from an administration perspective, for you to be able to go in, and the business managers can create these program managers and also the escalation managers. So there's this hierarchy of business manager versus program manager where you can go in. And again, I'm gonna give you a quick demo on that at the very end of it. But you can certainly, a couple of different ways, and we want to make it very easy for the engineers to be able to access TSANet. The other thing, and this is what people mainly do from an administration perspective, is they want to be able to edit their contact document. And we certainly want to make it easy, because this is where the rubber meets the road, right? This is where you're telling all the other companies, this is how I want to be engaged. And if you look at any contact document, it's really broken down into the 3 sections that you see over here on the right? And the first of it being, okay, if I need to contact, what do I want to tell another member company before they contact me? And that is, I need to get this information. Before you call me, I need to at least have this information in order for me to process and work with you on that call. So the section up above is before you call. We call that contact preparation requirements. It's just a series of check boxes you'll see from an administration perspective, but then you can also add, and it's very free-form text as far as what the check boxes are that you can add in there. You've got ability to create different types of things. But basically, this is going to be telling, okay, this is what I need before you call me. In the contact area, we've really split it up into, you can have up to 3 different totally separate processes. We've got those even categorized into web email, into phone calls, into all these different areas. There's this thing called case exchange, which I'm not going to touch on because Paul's going to kind of dive into that a little bit in our next version. But that's also another method. And what we'd like to have from a best practice perspective is to have at least 2 methods, whether that be an example phone or email, but at least one other method in addition to what you would call maybe your main method that you would want other companies to be able to engage you. And I will give you as an example here, because I get this a lot of times of, okay, I need to know how many times somebody engaged me through TSANet. And if you put in here your email contact method is support@x.com, pretty hard to differentiate between any other call that you would get in by that and a TSANet call. So what I do recommend also as a best practice that a lot of companies have done is make that alias TSANet@x.com, and at least that way you can go back and say, okay, I know I was contacted by these companies because I've got a record of that. Okay, and then the very bottom of this, and all these sections have got to be filled out, is the escalation. And we want to reserve that for, okay, the contact process didn't work. So I need to provide a path that if for whatever reason it didn't work, here's another path, and typically that would end up going to an individual that knows about TSANet so they can find out what went wrong, or at least be able to talk to you. So again, this is the way that you can manage and work on these contact documents. I will also tell you that a lot of companies, they'll come in and they'll do one contact document that applies to everybody. You can get very granular with these things if you want to. You can come in and say this contact document only applies to this relationship, or this contact document applies to this company within this relationship. You can do all sorts of different things. What we need to do from a TSANet perspective is to be able to add these documents in, and then from an administration perspective, you can go in and you can edit any document that's in the system. Okay. I go through these next couple of slides, and then we'll turn it over to Paul here. This is another area that several companies are taking advantage of. I'd actually like to see it more widely adopted within TSANet, and it's called internal notes. And this is the ability for you to be able to post information all the way down from after you click on a company in the directory, all the way down to maybe different relationships, to all the way down to that specific contact document. You can add an internal note that would only your engineers will be able to see. And where I've seen this really used well would be if you've got multiple relationships with this company, and maybe some of those are even outside of the scope of TSANet. You might want to tell your engineers, if you're contacting this company for this reason, do this. Or if it's even within the scope of TSANet, make sure that you tell the engineer when you get a hold of the other company that they need to know this. So this can be really well used, and it just basically provides an additional path to tell your engineers and guide them through a collaboration process. Because we realize sometimes contacting another member company can be a bit intimidating for some folks, and we want to make sure they understand that they can use this, that you've got this relationship, and if it makes it a little bit easier for this particular company, that you know something that they should know when they get to contact them, it's very easy to add this in. You just put it in a text field, and again, only your engineers see this. This is not available to people outside. Okay, I want to talk just a little bit. This next two slides are about the membership levels for those of you that may not be familiar. A lot of the companies that are on this call are part of what we call the open groups. That is a big many-to-many ecosystem where there's about 100 companies that are involved in the basic TSANet. A subset of that is the premium TSANet, which raises the bar as far as I agree to collaborate with these companies at a premium level on a 24/7 basis, on a global scale, with SLAs that are typically tied into more enterprise level customers. The basic TSANet allows you to engage that other company, but the other company is not obligated to respond back to you and at that higher SLA level. The basic TSANet is essentially a next business day in a Sept 1, whereas in the premium level, you've got 2 hours in a Sept 1, 4 hours in a Sept 2, and next business day in a Sept 3. So anyway, in this, on the left side of this equation here, right, is the open group environment where you've got a bunch of companies that you can have a relationship with. From the members' perspective, they came back to us years ago and said, that's great, but sometimes I need something a lot more strategic. And this has really morphed into where our members are taking advantage of the TSANet legal structure and the operational database to create their own hosted groups, where they will go in and say, I need something more strategic with these set of partners, and maybe I've already defined a mutual customer, where I don't have to have that in place. Maybe I've already got that set that up. We need to bypass our entitlement process, but I've only got a certain group of companies that I'm working with and only in this environment. You now have the ability through TSANet to create your own custom groups. And that can go into the strategic partner area. It can move into a one-to-many relationship where you might have an entire group. I've got companies that have got hundreds of partners, and they want to make sure that they create a collaboration mechanism amongst their partners. So we make it very easy for them to create a partner group where it's a one-to-many from the host perspective and a one-to-one relationship from the member perspective, and they can even pay for their membership. So a lot of companies are taking advantage of this. You can also move this into the channel environment where you've got channel partners. You want to be able to set that up with your channel partners. Again, I will emphasize back, the open group environment says you must have a mutual customer involved. The custom group environment lets you define that. So the host will define it, or a group of companies will define that. Okay, and again, I want to run through this real quickly, and again, I want to turn this over to Paul to get into the new administration interface and what we're doing with the web in the future. But basically, when you go into the TSANet website, you're going to see the ability in the directory for you to click on companies that are highlighted. That means you've got a relationship with them, whether it be an open group or a custom group. And if they're in the database and they're not highlighted, that means they're a member of TSANet, but they're part of another custom group that you're not part of. You click on that, it'll send an email to us, and it's very easy for us to go into an existing member and set up a relationship with them if you're already a basic or a premium member. So let me dig out of this. Training your teams, again, this is what we're here for. Paul and I do this all the time. You want us to help, let us help you. Right, that's what we can do. We can go co-branded. We can do all sorts of different things that we think will expose TSANet to your support teams that need to know about it, and let us help you train them. Okay, and let me do this real quickly because I want to give Paul some time. I've gone in here, I've logged in, and if you're an administrator in the system, you're going to see this admin in the menu up here, and when I click on that, I'm then going to see this sub-menu down here. As far as contact documents are concerned, I come down here, and this one's got a lot of different contact documents. If I come down here to the basic instructions that they've got set up, basically, here is the contact document. The preview section is down here below. Again, just like in the slides where we showed you that it's split up into different sections. If I need to edit this, I can come in here into the contact preparations area. You can see it's just a series of check boxes. The contact information is just free-form text in these areas. And then you just come down here and you save your document. And again, if you want to get specific about, okay, only certain groups of companies, yeah, that's something that we do from the TSANet side. Under company, you're going to see down here this users area. It's going to be where you can go in, see your users, you can add users, and it's really it's very easy to set up and do. But once you get logged in, if you've got administration capabilities, it's going to be up here in this area up here. Again, if you got any questions, obviously you can go back to us. So let me go back to the slides here, Paul. I think this is going to try to tee this up for you.
Yep.
And there we go.
Excellent. So a couple new things for this year and next year that we wanted to highlight. This first one here is the new member help for admins, and you can get to this page either from the little help icon within the member web or from the new public site. You'll see on the bottom navigation there's a member help as well. But in addition to kind of a high-level caller video, and now most of the help is designed around the admins because that's really where most of the requirements are. And you can see it's kind of split into these three different sections. So what are the things that you need to do to get onboarded? Or this also could be you're brand new to TSANet. Somebody just gave you the admin hat and now you need to get up to speed. This is the place you want to get going. The adoption is really where we see, people kind of reviewing that each year to see what are the best practices, how do I kind of improve usage, things along those lines. And then the expand tends to focus on some of the things that Dennis talked about with partner programs, solution support, the areas where you can start moving TSANet into more of a strategic way of working versus a exception process that you use if you need it, right? So we see a lot of members, once they start to get in the expand area, really improves their adoption and the value that they get from TSANet overall. Okay, then the next slide, I just want to spend a bit of time on, I think probably the most important information on this slide is the fact that we have a webinar that's going to take place on October 24th. So if you have not registered for that yet, please do so. There'll be a lot more detail on that. We actually have a second opportunity on October 3rd. There is a North America focus group that's taking place in RTP. IBM is hosting it. If you have not received an invitation to that, you want to go, and there's actually a remote option as well, so you could attend remote. But the difference is during that October 3rd meeting, we'll be showcasing this new member web, getting feedback, so you have the opportunity to kind of influence things versus on October 24th. It's more of a showing you what the new member web is going to be. But just kind of walking through the big things that are coming in the new member web. First and foremost, it's simplified caller interface. You can see just the first screenshot here to the right. It's really designed around quickly finding and initiating a collaboration with another member, because that is what the engineers want to do, and they want to do that in the easiest method possible. The second big thing is what we're calling Case Exchange Lite. This is what we are planning to have to be the kind of default method of collaboration between members. It's more of a form-based approach with a lightweight process behind it, and we'll be walking through the details of that. That's probably the biggest change here in the new member web. But then a couple other areas, we have a new company login page. So this, I think, will make it much easier for you to deploy TSANet in a broader way. So if you've got an organization with thousands of employees and you were using the group login method, there's another easy way to kind of scale things out that's more secure. And then the last area that you'll see a lot of improvements on is the partner programs. As Dennis highlighted, this is an area where we've seen a lot of growth here over the past few years, and what we want to do is really clean that up, make it much easier for you to kind of understand where you could benefit from partner groups, make it much easier to set those up, make it much easier to onboard different existing and new members into those programs, and kind of ongoing management of them. So that area will have a lot of improvements as well. But I'll kind of stop there. I know we're running out of time. I think the key thing I'd just reemphasize here is October 24th. If you haven't registered for that webinar yet, that's definitely where you'll hear a lot more details.
Hey, Paul, do you want to talk a little bit about and I mean, I realize a lot of this is going to be member driven, but talk a little bit about what you expect to see from the rollout of the new Case Exchange Lite and member web. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so maybe one thing that's going to be very different this time around, and I think it's an opportunity for you to, as admins going into next year. Previously, what we did when we had a new member web is, you'd go to sleep on Friday night, and then Monday morning you'd come in and you'd have a brand new member web, right? This we're going to actually launch in parallel, so we'll be running two parallel sites. We'll call it the old member web and then the new member web. And there'll actually be a process to bring you over to the new member web. So it has, creating a new Case Exchange Lite process, company login page, really kind of cleaning up a lot of the things that maybe aren't applicable anymore in the old site. So I think it is a great opportunity to kind of re-onboard, refresh all your users, do new training, all those types of things. So it definitely won't be a hands-off approach from a administrator standpoint. You will have some activities to do. Of course, we'll help with a lot of those, but it's something that I would start to think about planning for next year.
Okay, very good. And I tell you, and by the way, if anybody has any questions, sorry, I should have gone to this. We already did the demo, but we're into the Q&A section. If anybody's got any questions, you can go ahead and highlight them up on the sidebar there. But I do also want to emphasize what Paul mentioned about, we've got this meeting coming up on RTP, and then you can also remote dial in. If they should just send an email to you, right, Paul at TSANet.org?
Yeah, just Paul at TSANet.org.
Right, and it is so important that we get this information, because this is your organization, and this is where we've gotten to is based on what you're telling us. So, certainly would like to get as much input as we could on where we're headed with this, and what you would like to see us do in the future. So, let me see. We got a question. Is there a replay as I signed on late? Yes, there is. And Stephanie will be sending out this slide deck with a link so everybody can see that. And yeah, we want to promote this internally as much as we can. So yes, we will do that. And if you want to make sure, if you registered, we've already got your name. If you want to make sure you get that, you can also send an email to Stephanie@tsanet.org. Okay. And I think we're just about out of time. I don't have any other questions. Paul, any final thoughts, or are we good to go here? Anything?
No, I think we're good to go.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. We've got a lot going on here at TSANet. We appreciate your membership. We want you to take advantage of this as much as you can. Again, we want to provide the best service we can for our members. So thanks for attending, and we'll see you on the next one.